Alright, so we have a bonus upload today on the channel, which I don't normally do. I don't want to flood your guys' inbox with just tons of videos, but there's an interview and a quote making the rounds on Twitter in regards to Sephiroth and his role in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it is from none other than Tetsuya Nomura. So of course, we gotta talk about it, because there's a lot of people reading really into what he's saying and coming up with all these different ideas, but I think maybe it's not as deep as some people are making it out to be. But that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button. And if you want to stick around or you're new here, you can subscribe as well. It's always appreciated. So this interview comes to us from Shack News, and in it they got to sit down with Tetsuya Nomura, Naoki Hamaguchi, and Yoshinori Kitase. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be focusing purely on two comments made by Tetsuya Nomura and Naoki Hamaguchi in regards to Sephiroth and his role in Rebirth. So we start off first by saying the fated Mount Nibel mission is a key moment in the Final Fantasy VII story. It will also mark the first time that Sephiroth will be a playable character. How did you approach Sephiroth's design, both in terms of story and gameplay? How do you go about presenting him as the legendary soldier hero? We start off first with Tetsuya Nomura. Firstly, I would like to talk about Sephiroth's role within the story. For this entire remake project, Sephiroth makes much more of an appearance, much more so than the original title. He is certainly a character that really moves the story along in a very immense and impactful way. How exactly he does so for this title, I would like for users to experience with their own hands by playing until the end of Rebirth. As far as Sephiroth being this extremely popular character, frankly, I'm very curious as to what makes him so attractive to users, because I hear this opinion very often. His appearance, firstly, I'm sure, but also perhaps there is something about his background that brings about a particular appeal to so many of the players that makes him this iconic character. And so, for Rebirth, I would think that besides Cloud, Sephiroth is also a protagonist that we can think of for this title. And it's that last line there, Sephiroth also being a protagonist, that has a lot of people riled up and thinking, Sephiroth redemption arc. Now look, do I think a Sephiroth redemption arc will happen? I really don't know. I don't know if I want one. I think you probably could make it work. I used an example in a past video of a character like Negan from The Walking Dead. He starts off as this really awful, horrible human being. He kills two main characters on the show, and you think to yourself, I'm never going to support this guy. There's no way I will ever come around to liking him. And by the end of the series and into a spin-off show, he becomes a really great character that you kind of sympathize with and you can't help but like. And they've written him to the point where he's in this gray area where you understand he's done some really awful, horrible things, but he's also done some really amazing, great things and saved people and put himself in the line of fire to protect people. So taking a really despicable character like a Negan or a Sephiroth and redeeming them is entirely doable. Whether or not they can do that with Sephiroth in 2 games, I really don't know. But the line of him being a protagonist also has people wondering if Sephiroth is going to be playable in any other portion of the game. And if you look at the moveset of Sephiroth, his animations in Rebirth, a lot of it is super, super polished. And there's probably multiple reasons for that. One is there's an insane amount of polish and love and care and attention to detail put into this game, down to animations and movesets to story stuff and side quests. So it makes sense for them to take Sephiroth and really polish him and make him feel like a full-fledged playable character, even if it's only going to be for one section of the game. However, if we could play as Sephiroth again in other portions of the game, I think that would be great. I ran with the theory a while back that what if we could find an alternate Sephiroth from a different timeline that didn't snap once he learned the truth about Genova and he becomes a good guy again, or stays a good guy rather, and we can pull him in and make him part of our team and our party, which would explain why he's so polished. So being able to do that would be super cool, but I also had this idea of what if this really big twist moment happens maybe in Rebirth or in Remake Part 3 where our party is getting ready to face Sephiroth, and instead of the camera panning and heading behind the back of Cloud, it heads behind Sephiroth. And now we're controlling Sephiroth, and we're fighting our own party, Cloud and whoever. That would be a sick twist. I would lose my mind if that happened. But as far as Sephiroth being a protagonist, I think what Nomura is saying here is that Sephiroth is just such a popular, massive character. He's iconic that people view him as a leading character in this game, as a protagonist. And yeah, some people think he's a good guy. even though he's done some really horrible things. But even though he's a bad guy, he's just such an iconic character that even he might be like the biggest, most iconic character in all of Final Fantasy in terms of the villains. So I think that's what Nomura is saying here. He's just really popular. Everybody seems to love him. Even if you hate his character and what he does, you still have some sort of affinity for Sephiroth. And then of course you have those people that do Rule 34 stuff and they fantasize about Sephiroth and they want to be his waifu and they think he's super hot and attractive, which he does have a great head of hair. I can't argue with that. But I think part of what makes Sephiroth so intriguing is that we don't have a ton of info on his backstory. We've seen bits here and there in Crisis Core. We've seen him be a good guy who is kind of a company guy who's loyal to his company and to his friends. But once he starts to find out that there's more going on with Shinra, he decides, you know what? If my friends desert the company, I'm going with them. That's how loyal he is. So we've seen those flashes of how amazing his character could be as a good guy. And I think people are really intrigued by that. And we don't really, again, have a ton of info on his backstory, which I think is why he's so appealing. He's still mysterious in certain elements. And it's almost kind of like when you take a horror movie character like Michael Myers, for example. The reason why he was so scary in previous Halloween movies is because we didn't know a lot about him. He was this mysterious boogeyman, this shape that just shows up and scared people. It's almost like there was nothing underneath that mask in the suit. It was this, blackness, the evilest eyes, the blackest eyes, as Loomis says in those movies. And then you take a movie like Rob Zombie's Halloween, which was a remake, and he explains every facet of Michael Myers, and that to me took away every bit of mystique from the character, and he was no longer a threat. He was no longer scary because I knew who he was. I saw him as a kid. So that's a fine line that you have to kind of straddle when dealing with these villain type characters. But I'm really intrigued to see what they do with Sephiroth moving forward, and if again, he's going to be playable in other sections of the game. Maybe one specific section of the game involving the Forgotten Capital, which would be insane. Moving on to Naoki Hamaguchi's comments in regards to Sephiroth, he goes on to say, speaking upon more of the battle portion, what's unique in the demo build that we presented is that we have two of these different gameplays that we had people experience. Both of these have varying difficulties, of which the first one, Sephiroth and Cloud on their Mount Nibel mission, this is the less challenging of the two. And I'm not sure if it's Mount Nibel or Mount Nebel. I've heard both pronunciations over the years, so we'll find out for sure in Rebirth. But continuing, we made it considering Sephiroth and this entire character of him being this most powerful soldier that has been in existence. It would be kind of strange if it was difficult to defeat enemies using this character that's now playable for the first time. So we wanted to reflect the strength of Sephiroth and be able to defeat these monsters and enemies relatively easily in this gameplay demo. And I really love that quote because it shows how they can take a tutorial section of a game and ease players into it, but do it in a way that, again, what they've been doing with Rebirth so far and Remake, it's servicing the narrative. You have this super powerful character, so of course, fighting these regular enemies is going to be super easy because you're going to ease the player into combat, the rise in difficulty, boss battles, all of that. But also, it's frickin' Sephiroth, man. This guy can one-shot a dragon if he chooses to. He's not going to struggle in a fight. He fought Angeal and Genesis at the same time and didn't even break a sweat. So this is an incredibly powerful character, and we're going to get to experience that for the first time in a way that actually makes sense for the gameplay. It's not like we're going to pick Sephiroth and we're going to struggle. It's servicing the narrative, allowing us to be this powerful character and show how powerful he truly is. That is the video. I just thought that was an interesting tidbit of information in regards to Sephiroth and his role in Rebirth. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of the quote from Nomura in particular, and what do you guys think Sephiroth's role is going to be in Rebirth? Do you think we're going to utilize him in more than just a flashback? Do you think that there's a good guy version of Sephiroth out there, or do you think they're going to build towards some sort of redemption arc for this character? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.